All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So, hello everyone. Thank you for coming out today. My name is Jack. I'm currently in my third year in computer science. Some of you may have seen me at events before, but if you haven't, then a little bit about me. I'm currently in the AI ML stream, just trying out those courses. And over the summer, I was doing an internship at RBC in Toronto. So I've done one work term so far, and I'm looking for more for next year. And Matthew here also helped make this presentation. So, um, yeah, so the agenda for today is I'm going to go through basically sort of like a checklist for what you should be doing right now in the next couple of months before you start applying for jobs in around January. So I know it's called making a resume, but I'll cover that plus a few more things that you should know. So yeah, I'll start by how you actually make a resume, like how you write your bullet points and everything. And then since a lot of you said you're first years who may not even have a lot of technical experience yet, I will go through how you actually can get the relevant experience that you need to start putting things on your resume. I'll talk a little bit about application timelines and when you should expect to start applying and when you should be ready by. As well as since there's the Carleton Career Fair coming up, I'll talk a bit about how you navigate career fairs and advice to sort of make the most of them. And then finally, I'll cover a little bit about how the co-op program works at Carleton. So when you get to second year, you're aware of what you're in for, I guess. But yeah, all right, let's start with how you actually make a resume. So we did this before, but again, just by a show of hands, who here has tried making a resume first for any purpose? Okay, so okay, most people, yeah. But when you're making a technical resume to apply to software engineering internships and like things along those lines, a couple of tips for how you should write your bullet points, which these can apply just generally as well. But for each entry that you have in your resume, so each like project or any job or volunteering position, try to cover them in sort of the situation, action, and result format. So what was the situation? What were you working on? What action you took, like how you actually did whatever you had to do, and then what the outcome was, so the result. And yeah, just try to like, I guess, tell a story for each section and cover all of the core skills and tools that show how you did something. So if you were working on a project, and try to mention like the main things that you used. Don't like spam all the keywords that you can. Like you don't need to mention every single library and stuff that you used, but just like mention the core things that are relevant to that project that you can talk about. And whenever possible, try to quantify the impact you had. Like if you actually talk to recruiters, one of the biggest piece of advice they give you is put in metrics wherever you can. So again, if you were working on a project and you sped up how fast your website loads or something, you can put in a metric that is along the lines of decreased page load time by X% by doing XYZ or something. And it doesn't always have to be technical either. You can say something like worked in a team of X people to achieve whatever you were working on. So showing soft skills that way is also um, one way you can show metrics there. And then for any bullet points you're writing, try to use action verbs, and then try to avoid repeating them. So there's lots of examples, and like you can, if it's a technical thing, you can use developed or configured or automated, and then just generally too, you can use led or leveraged, and then a lot of other ones. But at least for each section in your resume, try to avoid using the same words again and again, and make sure you're checking your grammar and spelling for every single bullet point. Like having the attention to detail is very important, so you should not have any minor mistakes in there. You can use LLMs like ChatGPT to like give you like a basis for your bullet points. That's definitely helpful, but you should still edit them to make them sound more human and like actually consistent across your resume. But if you just like describe whatever project or work experience you have and have it write a few bullet points for you, that's definitely a good way to get ahead, like make the process faster. And lastly, you can consider using a resume template. So I'll show you a couple of examples here. These are the ones you'll see being recommended the most. So I don't know how much you can read, but it's more about the structure of it. So again, whenever you're making a resume, you want to make sure that it's easy to parse for like an automated system. So use like simple formatting, just like bullet points and clearly separated sections. Jake's resume is a pretty common one that you'll see CS students using. And then Awesome CV is another alternative. I'll post these slides afterwards, and you can both of those are linked there, so you can try those out, see which one you like more. They're pretty similar, but I personally like Awesome CV more just because there's a bit of color in it, and you can customize that as well. So, but you can pick whichever you like. Um, so again, most of your first year, so you haven't actually seen this, but in second year, and I'll talk about this a bit more later, but when you get to second year and if you're doing the co-op program, the resume template they give you, it looks something like this. So for at least for technical jobs, you want to try avoid using this because for a couple of reasons. So as a student, you probably don't have enough experience to the point where you need to put your resume onto 2 pages. So just for that reason, this isn't the best template. And if you like actually read the text on here, you'll see that your actual work experience or any volunteer experience in projects don't even show up until the second page. So um, generally try to keep your resume to 1 page. And even if you don't cover everything, just try to mention the relevant stuff to the job that you're applying for. Again, you haven't actually seen the co-op template, so don't worry about it for now, but just remember whatever they have you make in the assignment, you probably don't want to be using that for actual applications. Another thing has anyone heard the term ATS or applicant tracking system? So it's basically like when you apply to a job, the first thing your resume might go through is like the ATS system. So essentially an automated way to just parse your resume and pick out any keywords that match the actual job description that you're applying to. And then if a resume is passes the ATS check, like if you have a lot of the keywords that the job is looking for, then it will probably not get filtered out and actually go to a recruiter or a hiring manager or something. So to make sure that it's parsable by an automated system, you just want to use simple formatting like the templates that were there earlier. So don't use any complex graphics or tables or anything. Those won't parse well when you're applying online. Um, if you have experience with the things that are in the job description, try to put those in the bullet points, because again, that's partially what it's checking for. And then use standard titles for your section. So don't come up with quirky titles, but yeah, just stick to the basics that you'll see everyone doing. Experience, education, skills, and projects are the most common ones. So just try to stick to that. Whenever you're applying, submit your resume as a PDF. And one quick way you can check if it's easily parsable is just like copy the text from the PDF version, and if you paste it in a text file and all of the text is still the same, then you're most likely good for actually applying. But if anything is inconsistent, you should fix that before applying. And a couple of online tools you can use to just confirm if your resume is good. Resume Worded is one. If you just upload your resume, it like scores it based on a bunch of factors, but you can confirm if it's being parsed correctly. And AI Resume Judge, another example, does the same thing. And there's more out there, so you can find other ones, but these are a couple of examples that I've linked here. And yeah, the sections you should include in your resume are just education. You don't need to mention your high school there, but just mention your what university you go to Carleton, so mention that, and mention your major, so computer science. Put in your expected graduation date, and if you have like a high GPA, you can put that in there, but you don't need to if it's like not the best. So like I don't have my GPA on mine, so it's not a requirement. And then if you want to mention other stuff to fill a bit of space, you can put in like I have this scholarship or I took part in this activity or something like that. If you look at examples of resumes that are out there, you'll see what people do in the education section. Then you should have a skills section. Over here, you want to basically mention the core technical skills that you have experience with, and again, try to tailor that to the job that you're applying to. So see what keywords it's looking for and try to put those in there. Don't put in soft skills in that section. Like you don't need to explicitly say capable of working in a team or good at communication. Like those should more be implied by what you're actually putting in your bullet points. Then your actual experience, that can be work experience, or even if you phrase it correctly, you can put in volunteer experience there as well. Any projects that you've worked on and any extracurricular activities you do. Um, Another good way to get started, if you've never made a resume, is just look at what others are doing. A couple of places you can find examples of them are the CS Careers Discord. People, there's a resume review channel where everyone's posting their resumes, so you can see what the baseline expectation is. Obviously, those people are also looking for feedback, so it's not perfect yet. But if you like look out for the ones that have done a few internships, then you know they at least it's worked for them before. So you can try to copy that a bit. And r/CS majors is a subreddit where again you'll find a lot of examples of what resumes look like. And most importantly, just once you have a draft for your resume, just get feedback, both from any mentors you can find, like upper year students or anyone else that you know that has experience working, and even your peers. Like if you and your friends are sort of applying all at the same time, you can proofread each other's resumes to make sure you catch any errors that anyone has. And your friends can also maybe have more technical experience than you, so they can also be sort of a mentor for you as well. And yeah, the CCSS is actually doing a resume review service over the next week. So you just submit your whatever resume you have through Google form, and we'll email you the feedback within a few days. The form is not open yet, but it should be open later today. So just look out for that on our website. Okay, so the next section here is what do I do if I have no experience? Like you've probably had the thought that well, to get experience you need a job, but to have a job you need experience, and it's like sort of a loop. So again, who here has like no technical experience at all, like no projects or hasn't worked a job before? So a few people. Um, yeah, I guess I put this here, but so this is the resume I used when before my first internship. So before I had any work experience at all, um, even not even non-technical jobs, I had nothing. It was just volunteer stuff and projects. But just at a first glance, you can probably not super easily tell that I don't have any work experience. Like you do see like a pretty full experience section, but all of that is volunteer stuff. So that's kind of the point of this next section. Like even if you don't have any actual work experience, you can do a lot of things that help you fill out your resume. And as you get more experience, you can update that. Yeah, question? Like school course projects. Yeah, if you have nothing else, then you might as well put that in there. But try to get rid of those when you can, because everyone else is also putting their school projects there. So when everyone is applying through the Carleton Co-op board, if they're seeing the same projects for everyone, you're not really standing out from other people. So if you have nothing else, then yeah, you can put those there. Like I do have like that is like a 2401 project, but I don't have that on there anymore. So just once you have a few other projects you've worked on, just try to remove your school projects there. Um, yeah, so how do you actually get relevant experience? There's a bunch of things you can do. So the biggest one I'll talk about is personal projects. And then there's also open source projects, a few opportunities that Carleton has, and then also hackathons and technical workshops. So just generally, how do you get ideas for personal projects? Mainly just try to make something you're actually interested in, something that you would actually use. It can just be an app that you use a lot, but maybe it doesn't have a couple of features that you would like to have. So just try making it yourself, and hopefully you can get some use out of that. If you don't have any immediate ideas yourself, just see if a friend has an idea that they could use your help with, or maybe a club here at Carleton needs like a website or something, or even like a small business somewhere. Another thing you can try is just remaking something that already exists, but with new technologies that you're interested in learning. So those are a few general ideas, but those are pretty vague. So or yeah, I guess another thing you can do is DevPost is like a pretty popular website that hackathons use for submissions, and they have a portfolio of projects that you can look at for inspiration if you're looking for some ideas. But and yeah, whatever you're making, it doesn't need to be like a unique thing. Like you don't need to come up with a brand new idea for any project. You can do something that others have done before, but just as long as you can explain why you chose to do that and why what impact it has, that's what matters more. If you want to make like a to-do list as your first project, even though people have done that hundreds of times, just go and make it because it's like you're learning in the process anyway. So don't overthink like your first project idea. That's the point of this. But okay, after all of that, if you are still confused about where you can get started, so you can get started by just following a YouTube tutorial. Like if you want to make a website and you've heard that React is like the popular thing that everyone uses, just go look up React tutorial and there will be some ideas there that you can follow. I just copied a random one here, but I guess this is for building a Figma clone. So you'll find a lot of ideas like that. And the second one here I have as an example is maybe you're interested in doing a machine learning thing. So again, you can just look up something like machine learning tutorial and something will come up and you can follow that. Um, the other thing you can do is this is not super readable, so I apologize for that, but just ask ChatGPT. You can ask it something like, hey, I'm interested in machine learning, but can you give me some project ideas for that? And it will give you a lot of ideas for different skill levels. And then maybe you like a specific idea, like one of the ones it has here is music genre classifier. So you can ask it to give you like a roadmap for how you can get started, and it will give you a plan for the steps you should take to implement that. So that's another way you can do it. And then maybe you already have an idea, but you don't know how to get started with making it. So you can ask it about that as well. Like the example I have here is I want to build a project showcase website where you can either upload a project you've made or you can browse projects that others have made. And okay, what do you think is the best tech stack for this? And it will again give you like a plan to get started on making that. What actual skills should you highlight through your projects? There's a couple, again, there's a couple of ways you can find the specific words you're looking for. One of the best resources I've personally seen is this website called roadmap.sh. So any sort of field you're interested in, whether that's front-end development or cybersecurity or machine learning or a lot of other things, it has an entire roadmap for you to try to follow along with. Again, you don't need to learn every single thing that it mentions, but as long as you get started with it, you'll like pick up on what is actually important and what you can skip. Again, you check that. I would recommend checking that website out after this. And the other thing that I found the most useful is even if you're not applying yet, just go and look at job postings and see what they actually ask for. So these are a couple of general software engineer intern or software developer intern positions. And if you look at the must-haves or the nice-to-haves here, they mention the specific languages or concepts that they're looking for. Same here. Um, so yeah, just look out for those words, and if you look at a lot of them and you notice that, oh, this one seems to be pretty common across all of these, then you can just start by learning that and making something with that. And then if you already have some idea of what specific roles you want to target, like maybe you want to go into front-end development, just look out for those job postings and see what words they're mentioning. Or maybe you want to do something AI related, so find those ones and look at the words that they're looking for. Um, You'll also, if you start looking at jobs, you'll see a lot of companies having a lot of different intern postings, and those will be for specific domains. So again, as you like start building projects and you realize you like working on certain parts of the app more than others, you can look at the specific domains they're posting jobs for and what things they want experience with. Um, so sort of a warning with this method, when you look at these job postings, a lot of them will just mention a really long list of things that you can have experience with, so you don't need to learn everything. Like the one on the right here, for example, this line over here, all of those are just testing frameworks, so you don't need to go and put every single one of those on your resume. As long as you have experience with one of them, it's close enough. So they more want to see you understand the concept than have that exact word on your resume specifically. But if they mention something super specific, like you must have used this one before, then yeah, just go and make something with that. And then how do you determine if you are working on a good project? Well, the first thing is, does it actually solve a decent problem? So something super basic like a calculator app. It's good to get started just to like get the idea of how you like make a program, but that's probably not what you want to put on your resume since calculators exist, so it's not really solving a problem. But compared to something like the one I mentioned earlier, like a project showcase website, that is like a decent enough problem that, oh, if someone wants to get project ideas, you can go and look at projects that others have done and you can showcase the projects you've done. So that's like a decent enough problem that you can talk about why you chose to make that, and that's complex enough that you can use a lot of different technologies with it. You should also, if you haven't already used GitHub, you should start hosting your projects on there so that people can look at the code you're writing, and you can link that on your resume as well, since a lot of hiring managers will try to see the actual projects you've worked on. So having them public is a good thing. Um, did you actually deploy your project? So what I mean by that is it actually usable? Like if you've made a website but it only works on your computer, that's you can still put that on your resume, and you can one way to handle that is just have screenshots of the website on the GitHub repository, even if you're not officially hosting it. But if you actually deploy it and get some users, then you'll learn a bunch of other things like making sure the website doesn't go down or making sure it can handle a lot of users at the same time. So those are also skills that are worth highlighting. And also, once you've made a project, can you like talk about why you chose to do it that way, why you made certain technical decisions and things like that? And try not to make the same thing repeatedly. Like if maybe you're into web development, but try not to just make conceptually the same things. Like a to-do list is essentially the same as a task tracker or a flashcards app, is all you're doing is like adding things to a list and removing them from it. So having one of those is cool, but try to make something else after that and try to use different concepts that you haven't used before. Like maybe you try user authentication for one of them and you try integrating a payment system for another one. So just get experience with different things, even if you're making like apps in the same domain of like web development, for example, or anything else. The next thing you can try working on are open source development projects. So what that means is there's a lot of different projects that people have opened up to anyone who is interested in working with them. So one way you can find them is just going on GitHub, and there's a link here that has a long list of projects that you can contribute to. And specifically, they have minor features that they're looking for beginners to help with, since they're good for really small tasks that anyone without much experience can help with. There's also lots of clubs at Carleton that have development opportunities. A couple I'll give a shout out to are CU in Space, since I have a bit of experience with them. If you're interested in hardware programming or low-level systems programming with like C, for example, then they have opportunities for that. And Carleton Blueprint also hires developers a couple times a year to work on websites for nonprofit organizations. And the other clubs mentioned here, and even more that I've not put on this slide, also have a lot of development stuff that you can do with them. So again, check those out. You'll use those are other than projects, those are something you can put in your actual experience section to fill that up. So it's worth having some of those there. My resume that I showed earlier, like my experience was just the open source stuff that I've done with the CCSS. So it's just getting the breadth of experience is a good thing. And try going to hackathons as well. Even if you don't have any experience, it's just an excuse to go and work on any project idea that you have. Even if you don't win, you like come out of it having learned something, and maybe a project that you can work on that you can put on your resume. So they're worth going to. They usually have free food, so it's just an excuse to do your work over there while getting some free snacks and stuff. Again, these are a couple of examples. UAuta Hack usually happens every year. I know it's happening in January next year, just over at UOttawa. Hack the North just happened in Waterloo, I believe, in September, but it happens every year as well. And then CU Hacking will happen earlier this year, but again, next year they are planning to host it. There's lots of small ones that pop up, like we do a hackathon every now and then. And another one happened yesterday, Technol Hack. Maybe some of you saw the poster for it. So yeah, there's lots of these. Just try to go to any one that you're free for, and it's usually worth it to get some extra experience. And then a couple of opportunities that exist at Carleton. If you're more into research, if you are interested in trying out what research is like, again, most of you here are first years, so keep an eye out for an email about the DSRI, which is the Dean Summer Research Internship. It's basically a research internship you can do the summer after your first year. So since you're not officially in co-op until after your second year, this is one way you can get some experience, and you do get paid for it. The main requirement is you should have a GPA of 11 or higher in your first term. And then there's a few others, and I've linked the page there so you can go through that later. But iCurious is a similar one. The only difference is it's not just for first years and it's not restricted to summer. You can kind of do that one whenever you have a professor who wants to do a research project with you. SAP is similar. You're working with a professor on something, but not necessarily research. It can be something like they want you to make resources for a course they're teaching. So maybe it involves doing workshops for like a comp course or something. But again, that depends on if a professor has a project that you can work on. And another thing you can do as a CS student is because not a lot of people go into the master's program, usually you'll see that a lot of your TAs and your CS courses are just upper year students, like maybe second year students or third year students. So after your first year, you can just apply to be a TA if you have good, if your grades are high enough, or if you like know a professor that you have a good connection with. And again, that's a paid opportunity that is like relevant experience since you're teaching kids tech adjacent things. So that's worth highlighting as well. Um, if you don't have a lot of time, since you maybe want to apply to something that in the next few days, or if since there's the career fair coming up, for example, and you want to try to make a resume before that, you can exaggerate things on your resume, and I guess I can also say you can lie on it technically, but just within reason. So maybe you have an idea for a project and you kind of know how you're going to do it, but you haven't had time to work on it. You can just put it on your resume first. You can apply with it or like go to the career fair with it and continue working on it. Like no one is looking at your project like as soon as you apply, you have a bit of like time to continue working on it. And if it's like in a half done state, but it's publicly viewable on GitHub, that's usually good enough. Don't outright lie and say something like don't say you've worked somewhere you've never worked because they will when they get to the background check you will that will mess you up. And if you put something on there that you can't actually talk about, like if you put a project on there but you have no idea what it's actually about, then they will catch that even if you get to the interview. So yeah, as long as it's something you're eventually going to end up doing within a reasonable amount of time, you can put that in first and just apply with that. Okay. Super small section, but what do application timelines actually look like? Uh, So most co-op and intern positions will hire 3 to 4 months in advance of when they start. So if you're applying for a summer position starting in May, it's going to be you're most likely going to be applying in January or February. Some companies might post earlier in like December, but most of them go up in Jan. And then any bigger companies, they may post their internship roles as far as like 8 to 12 months in advance, but if you miss those, that's not a problem. Again, just the vast majority of them will happen 3 to 4 months in advance. So again, if you're aiming for a summer position and as long as you're ready to apply by January, then you're good. Um, some companies will only hire for the summer term, others will hire for any term. Summer is the most competitive because most people aren't taking classes, so everyone's looking for an internship. Fall and winter are relatively easier because people are back to school, but some people are still in the co-op program and looking for internships. So yeah, to summarize that, just work on building your portfolio in the next couple of months, and as long as you're ready to apply by January, that's what matters. Um, all right, the next thing is how you navigate career fairs. So, for context, yeah, as I mentioned, Carleton has their career fair happening next Wednesday, so in about a week. Has anyone registered for it, just out of curiosity? Okay, a couple of people. If you haven't, you can still register for it. I do recommend going, even if you're a first year without a lot of experience. It's a good way to I guess make the mistakes you would make your first time going to a career fair and just like get the experience of what it's like so that if when you go next year, you actually know what it's like and you can get a better outcome. But yeah, just a few random tips for if you do go. Do your homework about the companies first. So you should not be going up to the company's booth and asking them there, like what they actually do. You should, any companies you're interested in talking to, like look them up first, figure out what domain they work on. If you can try to look at their job postings, see what tools and technologies they usually work with, and see if they actually have any internship roles posted already. You should not be you should not be asking those questions when you go there because then they don't really see you as being interested in their company. It sort of comes across as a general, you're just looking for a job, so that's not a positive. Also, if you're going there as a first year, don't highlight that you're a first year. Like in your introduction, you don't need to outright say that you're a first year student. Um, you can try to hide you can just be like, I'm a student here, I'm interested in XYZ, I've worked on XYZ. And if they outright ask you, oh, what year are you in, then it's kind of unavoidable. But as long as you can try to hide it, just don't mention that, since a lot of companies will not take you seriously if you mention that you're a first year, since you're just starting university. So third and fourth years most likely have more experience than you. So um, another thing is, on the topic of resumes, try to, if you can, then try to make one that visually stands out. So when you're handing them a physical resume in person, then it being simple to parse online by an automated system doesn't actually matter. So if you have the time to do it, then you can actually make one that is more creative visually. Like you can try to use, you don't need to be insane with it. You don't need to actually put like drawings and stuff on it or anything, but it can be better. I didn't put an example on here, but if you just look up resume examples, you'll probably see some that are not just a bullet point format. So you can do something like that as well. But yeah, like recruiters, they're talking to hundreds of students, and a lot of them just have the black and white bullet point format resume. So if yours actually looks different, then they might pay more attention to that one. If you don't already have a LinkedIn profile, you should make one. If you have one, you should make sure it's fully updated before you go. Does anyone have a LinkedIn here? Okay, most people do. So yeah, if you go, just make sure it's fully updated with anything you've worked on recently, and anyone you talk to, make sure you connect with them on LinkedIn and try to send them a follow-up message a couple of days later to just maintain the connection. So even if you're not like applying for jobs immediately, you can reach out to them later when you're actually applying to that company and try to leverage the connection you have. And then when you go, these career fairs have like dozens of companies there, but you probably don't need to talk to all of them. You might, if you look at the list of people that are there first, you'll probably identify like four or five companies that you're interested in. So when you get there, try to talk to a couple of them that you are maybe interested in, but don't care about that much. And yeah, just warm up with them and make any mistakes you might make first, so that by the time you talk to one that you actually want to work at, you're better prepared to introduce yourself and talk to them, I guess. Um, just minor comment, but yeah, when you go, just dress professionally. Not It doesn't need to be extremely professional, but just not something that is not sweatpants and a hoodie or something. And yeah, act professionally as well. So if you're introducing yourself to someone, try to shake their hand and maintain eye contact when you're talking with them. And yeah, just try to stand up straight. Don't be fidgeting around. I know I do that, but don't be like me. Um, and depending on the company, you'll talk to different people. There's mainly two categories of them. It might be someone that is a recruiter at the company, or it might be an actual developer or a engineering manager there. So depending on the person, ask other different questions. So if you're talking to someone in talent acquisition, you should keep the conversation non-technical, since they don't actually do the technical work. You can ask them about the hiring process and what their usual hiring cycle looks like and things along those lines. But yeah, just try, if you can, try to mention like the most central technologies that they use, but you don't need to say a lot of different minor technologies that the company uses, since the recruiter most likely is not familiar with most of them. But if you're actually talking to a developer, then they have the technical context needed, so you can ask them more specific questions like what team they're on and what projects they work on, what specific services and features they're responsible for. And then if you, based on their answers, if you've worked on similar things, then try to like match your experience to what they're saying. Like if it's a web development team and you've made websites before, then you can throw in that you have experience with the things that they work on. And you're interested in, learning more about them in like a professional setting or something like that. But yeah, just like tailor the conversation to your audience, is the summary there. And yeah, when you start talking to someone, don't immediately just go and ask about like the job opportunities. Try to make it more conversational. Like instead of immediately going, are you hiring any interns? You can just try to make conversation, like ask them about their day, or you can also try to get information indirectly by asking them about themselves. Like, for example, if you're talking to a developer, instead of asking what skills should I work on to get a job at this company, you can just generally ask them what their team works on, what technology they usually use, and you're still getting the information you need about like what skills you should work on, but you're more phrasing it in the context of asking more about them, so that can feel a bit more conversational. Um, and in your introduction, learn to sell yourself well. So you should try to communicate who you are, what you actually want out of this, why you're interested in the company, and what value you bring to them. So specifically for your value proposition, you should try to mention any skills you have or any prior experience you have that is relevant to the company, and how that aligns with the the company's main goals and stuff. So that's one example introduction. Disclaimer that is a little longer than it probably needs to be, but it can just be something like, "Hi, my name is X. I'm a X-year student at Carleton. I noticed that company name here is working in some field. I've also recently been working on projects that are related to that are say the same words that the company is working on if you've actually worked on in that field." And you can finish off with something like, I would love to learn more about the specific work your team does and how, if you're hiring any interns for the role. Okay, yeah, that was all about career fairs. And the last bit I have here is how co-op actually works, since most of your first year, you haven't actually gone through the process yet, so I'll really quickly cover what that looks like. So a bit of upfront information. How are internships and co-ops different? In practice, what you're doing in an internship versus a co-op is basically the same thing, but there's a couple of semantic differences. As a co-op, you are part of an accredited Canadian cooperative education program. So you are, for example, part of Carleton's co-op program for computer science students. And if you're in the co-op program, then a company hiring you usually means they get a tax break from the government. So that's sort of like a benefit for them. That's why sometimes they may prefer to only hire students in co-op programs, but a lot of them will still hire interns that are not in a co-op program. So you can just apply anyway. But if someone is in a co-op program, then they do have a very slight advantage over you. But it doesn't matter that much in the long run. What people might do is there's lots of factors here, but you can uh, get like one or two co-ops through being in the co-op program, and then if you're not getting any benefit out of that later, you can just drop the program and continue to do internships, since once you have experience, you are more valuable to any company out there. So what your work study pattern will look like starting in second year, or a bit generally about what happens after first year. So you need to have a GPA of 8.0 or higher in all of your courses, and you need to maintain that throughout your time in university to stay in the co-op program. Um, so in the summer after your first year, near like July or August, you'll get an email confirming whether you were admitted to the co-op program or not. Um, and then if you are, then in the fall of your second year, you take a Co-op 1000 course. I kind of mentioned this before, but yeah, it's a zero credit course and it's not a lot of work. It's like one quiz a week and there's one assignment for the entire term. So it maybe takes like an hour or two per week. So you can do that course plus your usual course load and it's not a problem. But yeah, once you pass that course, you can move. Once you go into the winter, you get access to Carleton's job board, and you can start applying for summer internships. And assuming you get something, your first work term happens in the summer after your second year. And that is most likely when you will do your first work term. But if, let's say, you don't get a position for the summer, that's not a problem. You can just choose to do a study term instead, or just take the summer off. And then if you find a work term for the fall of your third year, you can just do a work term then. And the pattern is pretty flexible. So if you just ask them, hey, can I change this around? I didn't get a position for this specific term that was supposed to be a work term, and they will just do it for you. So yeah, if you don't get a position for what was supposed to be a work term, don't worry about it. It's not the biggest deal. Um, and this is just for the basic CS degree. I've linked a page here that has the breakdown for all of the different streams. Most of them are pretty similar, but there might be differences. So you should check it out for the stream that you're in. And yeah, what Co-op 1000 actually covers is mainly how you make a resume and a cover letter. As I mentioned before, the resume that they give you it's supposed to be general for all programs at Carlson that have a co-op program. So for tech jobs specifically, it's not the best template. So you should not be using the template they give you for your actual internship applications as a CS student. The cover letters are fine. It one of the assignments is just make a resume and make a cover letter for like a example job posting. So once you've done that, anytime you're applying to a job, kind of know how to write a cover letter for it. As I said, it's supposed to be general for all programs, so there isn't a lot of CS focused advice. It does have tips for how you do like a behavioral interview, but if you are ever in a technical interview, then it's not really going to help you with that. So you should look out for other resources to help you with the CS specific job search. Um, it has other modules as well about how you should actually conduct yourself in a workplace, how you should actually, where you can actually find job postings and stuff, and those are pretty useful. But yeah, for cover letters and resumes and interviews, the advice may not always be applicable for you. Yeah, that was kind of all I had to say. Again, as a reminder, the forum for this will be open later today, and it's going to stay open throughout the week. So, if you've hopefully gotten some useful information today and you try to making a resume in the next week, feel free to submit it at any point, and we'll try to give you some feedback. And again, I would encourage you to register for the career fair happening next week, even if you're just a first year not really looking for jobs yet. It's just a good experience to have to see what it usually looks like. That was supposed to be after the thank you slide, but those are the capybaras I used. And yeah, that is all I had. So thank you for listening. And any questions anyone has right now. Yep. We'll post it on our website by later today. So if you go uh, here and then go to the events page, just click on this one, and like later today, there should be like a link here that you can use to find the slides. And we've recorded the presentation as well, so if you want to go back to any point, you can go and look at that. Any other questions? All right. All right. Thanks for coming out and enjoy your day.